This is Gothica Eterna.
Sowing, let the ritual begin. We call upon our sacred ancestors to come in. Sowing, we call upon our kin. We call upon our dear departed loved ones to come in.
Hello and welcome back to Gothica Eterna, and welcome my friend Saial Water Spirit.
Mary Moon.
So today we are going to finally do my Samhain video.
Or Samhain.
Depending on your tradition, it can be pronounced differently. There's Samhain as I say it,
Or Samhain.
or some traditions say Samhain, or for some Americans you have Samhain. Please do not say Samhain. There are many other pronunciations that you could pick besides Samhain. So, as in my Mabon video, first we're going to discuss what is sewing.
Or Samhain.
Alright, so what is sewing? In my video about Mabon, we discussed how Lammas is the first harvest festival and Mabon is the second. Well, now we're approaching the third harvest festival, Samhain, which takes place on October 31st. It is also considered by most Wiccans and pagans to be the new year, the beginning of the Wiccan wheel of the year, and the sabbats. It's also the Day of the Dead, much how in Hispanic culture the following day, November 1st, is the Day of the Dead.
Where they feel where life is beautiful, they feel that death is beautiful too, because they are two of the same coin. And so they'll dress up with lively costumes, even though they're meant to represent dead, they're lively because life is beautiful, so death is beautiful too.
It's also the time when the veil between the worlds is the thinnest. Samhain and Beltane are the two nights of the year where that veil is very thin.
Where that's when a lot of people will represent it for the dark goddess, which she has very many names. A lot of common ones are Hecate, Kali, Persephone, Caradwyn, Lilith, a lot of people, and Inanna. And she's also represented as a crone, or a lot of times people will see her in her animal form as a raven or a crow.
It's also the night when, because that veil is so thin, spirits are welcome to walk through our world, and the Fae are often at their most mischievous. It's usually considered when they're wreaking havoc throughout our world.
And a lot of times, because their queen is Morgana Le Fay, and she's been known to dabble in shape-shifting and necromancy, and a lot of times she'll take her form as a crow or a raven, and she'll slip into your dreams and whisper malintent, or sometimes it'll be light, depending on, how she's feeling that day.
It's also the night to honor those who have passed, whether that be people that you know who have passed on, or just wandering spirits of those who have passed and haven't crossed over to the other side yet.
And a lot of people will leave offerings, which is usually a plate of some food and a glass of wine for any wandering spirits that come through.
So on this night is when we pay attention to the absence of the sun god, who's reborn at winter solstice, and the crone is called upon to comfort us as we mourn the dying god. The sun god's power is at its weakest, and the moon goddess's power is at its strongest. So keep that in mind when you're doing any magical working at this time. It's when the cattle and sheep were brought in from the summer pasture, and everything but their breeding livestock would be killed for winter food and to basically make fewer mouths to feed. The last fruit would be picked except for that which would be left for the spirits, and the grain would have already been gathered at this point and been processed to make flour and beer and all of that. So this really marks the end of the harvest season. Alright, so now we're going to talk about some superstitions and omens surrounding Samhain, because it's the night of Halloween. There's a lot of superstitions involving pretty much anything to do with witchcraft, but particularly surrounding the night of Samhain. So we have mirror superstitions. Many people in various parts of the world consider it to be extremely unlucky to look at your reflection in a mirror by candlelight on Samhain. Many people also believe that mirrors are the gateways to other worlds, and they'll cover mirrors with a black cloth to keep that gateway closed. There's superstitions regarding candles. A burning candle placed inside a hollowed out jack-o'-lantern on someone works to keep evil spirits and demons at bay. For good luck, you burn black and orange candles. Black and orange are traditional colors, and their magical vibrations are at their peak. If a candle suddenly goes out by itself on Samhain, it's as if it was blown out by wind or someone blowing on it. It's said to be a sign that a spirit has come to call. You will always burn new candles on Samhain to ensure the best of luck. Likewise, it's not a good idea to burn sewing candles at any other time of the year. It's said that to do so may cause bad luck or strange happenings that you can't control. If you gaze into the flame of a candle on Samhain, it's said to enable you to peer into the future. Many witches will traditionally scry candle flames on Samhain to receive visions. It's believed that if a person lights a new orange-colored candle on Samhain and lets it burn until the sunrise, that they will be the recipient of good luck. But according to an old legend from Europe, anyone who bakes bread or journeys after sunset on Samhain or Halloween runs the risk of conjuring forth bad luck. So candles burning are good luck for the most part, as long as you only burn new candles and let them burn down. But there's an old superstition that if you bake bread after sundown, it's bad luck. So do your baking in the morning. Moon omens. If the moon is new, it indicates that the coming year will be fertile ground for new beginnings. For those bearing children, a new moon on Samhain is a lucky omen indicating a new birth within a year's time. If the moon is waxing, it indicates good luck through the coming year and growth and increase of all things that are positive. If it's full, it ensures that the powers of all forms of magic and divination practiced on that night will be at their greatest, and a wish made at midnight will be realized within the coming year. If the moon is waning on Samhain, it can be an omen of either good or bad consequences. It can indicate the elimination of such things as bad habits, unhealthy relationships, and obstacles, or it can point to a decrease, such as in one's health or a loss of some kind to take place. If the moon is in the dark phase on Samhain, it's believed to be a very negative omen. You'll want to exercise extreme caution in all of your endeavors within the next year, so the superstitions say. And it wouldn't hurt to protect yourself by carrying an amulet or a talisman designed to ward off bad luck and misfortune. Alright, so we're going to talk about some traditions and history of Samhain. One thing that everybody knows about Samhain, or as society knows at Halloween, is trick-or-treating. Parents will take their kids out, get them little costumes, and take them door to door getting candy. Ring on the doorbell or knock and yell trick or treat, and they give you candy. So that actually has its roots, most historians agree, in souling, a custom that began in medieval times in the British Isle. Beggars would go door to door offering prayers for departed loved ones in exchange for soul cakes, which traditionally were made of oatmeal and apples. But modern days sometimes we'll make them that way, or sometimes we'll basically make hot cross buns and put a pentacle on them instead of the traditional Christian cross on hot cross buns. Sometimes they would also receive apples, nuts, or copper coins. The more gifts that they received, the more prayers they would offer. But if the beggars were refused a gift, they would retaliate with a prank. And that's where we get the name trick or treat. You basically have two options. They play a trick on you, or you give them a treat and they don't play a trick on you and they offer prayers for you. So that's where trick or treating originated. And the church actually approved of and encouraged souling because they felt that it was a good replacement for the pagan custom of leaving food either on a table in your home or at the door of your house to appease wandering spirits. Where we get the custom of dressing up for Halloween, actually, in some traditions, it originated from often the priests who would wear a mask and dress up basically ghoulish to blend in with the wandering and mischievous spirits that were said to roam around on the night of Samhain.
And other people would dress up as a ghost or very transparent as a way to help wandering spirits out into the outskirts of town where the veil was the thinnest to help them pass.
Jack-o'-lanterns are another traditional staple of Samhain or Halloween. A little fun fact is that in Ireland they actually carved jack-o'-lanterns of sorts out of turnips. They would hollow out the turnip and cut a little face into it, much like we do with pumpkins, and they would make a little handheld lantern out of that. The main purpose of jack-o'-lanterns is to ward off negativity and evil spirits. We'll often place a black candle inside of the jack-o'-lantern. So the jack-o'-lantern itself being at your doorstep is said to scare off the evil spirits, and then you also have that protection element of having that black candle inside of it. Another tradition of Samhain is having a dumb supper, which is essentially a dinner that is held in silence. You set an extra place at your table with food and wine for the departed spirits of your loved ones, and you just hold your dinner in silence to honor and remember those who have passed. Samhain is also the night of divination. That's when you break out your crystal ball, your tarot cards, whatever you have available. Many will use scrying bowls and water. Some people will fill a cauldron with water and crystals and herbs and scry with that. Candle divination or flames from a bonfire. People will often gaze into them to see visions. And apple divination, which we will talk about a little bit in the next section, is also very common.
And also, modern witches nowadays, they will either invite their deceased loved ones in, and it's nothing like how people think they use seances or Ouija boards to summon. They actually invite them to come back and visit once more. And other ones, they'll dress up in costumes and they'll have treats and enjoy good times with families. But then again, everybody celebrates Samhain just as many as there are many witches in the world.
Alright, so apples and Samhain. Apples are extremely protective. When an apple is sliced in half, the seeds form a pentagram-like shape, and it's thought that that is very protective. So one tradition that everybody knows is bobbing for apples. The tradition of bobbing for apples dates back to the Roman invasion of Britain, when the conquering army merged their own celebrations with traditional Celtic festivals. The Romans brought with them the apple tree, a representation of the goddess of the fruit trees, Pomona. It's thought that the manifestation of the pentacle symbol within the apple meant that apples could be used to determine marriages at the time of sowing. From this belief came the game of bobbing for apples. During the annual celebration, young unmarried people would try to bite into an apple floating in the water, and the first person to bite into the apple will be the next one to be married. On the night of Samhain is when a lot of people will perform apple divination. One form of it being that it is said that if you peel an apple in one long string and allow the string to fall to the ground, it will spell out the initials of your future mate.
Or if you have an apple on a string and you push a coin all the way through, and if you can bite the coin out without using your hands, it is also said that your pockets will be filled throughout the rest of the year.
If you walk backwards into a dark room while looking into a mirror and eating an apple at the same time, it's said that you will see your future mate's face in the mirror's reflection. Alright, so getting in the spirit of Samhain. For those of you who have seen my Mabon video, you already know what I'm going to say. Decorating. Decorating, decorating, decorating. Decorate your house. I cannot emphasize enough just how much good having those seasonal and holiday inspired decorations will put you in the mood for your celebrations. Make homemade apple cider and soul cakes.
Which is actually going to be my daughter's first Samhain, so that'll be something really fun to do with her too.
So we're planning on getting together and making a meal. And those of you who've seen my Mabon video, you know that I highly recommend that if you're going to be celebrating with a group of people, get together beforehand, make some decorations together, make homemade apple cider and soul cakes, get that community and family feeling of the holiday. That will really help to put you in the spirit of the season. We're going to discuss a little bit later traditional colors and incense you can burn. Not the colors, the incense. Traditional colors you can have in your home and incense that you can burn to really help bring out that mood. Another way to get in the spirit is to have pictures around your house of those who have passed away, especially within the last year. Of course, have pictures of people who have passed on a long time ago, but within the last year especially, because this is the first Samhain that you will be honoring their passing on, and is honestly a crucial point for helping them pass through the veil if they haven't yet. Alright, so setting up your Samhain altar. Some symbols that you can have on your altar are apples, autumn flowers, acorns, bats, black cats, bones, corn stalks, cauldrons, colored leaves, crows, anything that symbolizes death or dying, divination. So have a crystal ball not out all the time because light can detract from the energy of your crystal ball, but maybe at night put your crystal ball out, especially on the full moon, to charge. Have your tarot deck on your altar, getting charged by the energies of your altar and of the energies associated with Samhain. Ghosts, gourds, Indian corn, jack-o'-lanterns, nuts, oak leaves, pomegranates, pumpkins, scarecrows. We already talked about scarecrows. I don't like them, but if you do, have a scarecrow. Scythes and symbols of the waning moon.
And then there's some foods that you can have on your altar or used in rituals. They can be apples, apple dishes, ciders, meats traditionally within the meat harvest, especially pork. You can have mulled cider with spices, nuts, pomegranates, potatoes, pumpkins, pumpkin bread, or pumpkin pie, yummy. Roasted pumpkin seeds, squash, corn, cranberry muffins, and bread, turnips, beets, ale, and a lot of mugwort herbal tea.
And as I said in the previous section, pictures. What I like to do, as I mentioned, having pictures of people who've been deceased for quite a while and also within the last year, I like to have the pictures of people who passed on more than a year ago throughout the house, and then on my altar specifically have the pictures of people who have recently passed on. Alright, so now we're at the candles, herbs, incense, and crystals section.
So when you're setting up your candles, a lot of very familiar colors would be black, brown, gold, orange, red, silver, or yellow.
As far as herbs, you have a ton of herbs that you can use on Samhain. You have apple, you have cedar, cherry, elder, eucalyptus, holly, horse chestnut, lime, orange, palm, date, oak, peach, pear, pine, plum, quince, rowan, sandalwood, willow, witch hazel, African violet, agar, blackberry, blueberry, cinnamon, coconut, cuckoo flower, cyclamen, deer's tongue, devil's bit, elderflower, garlic, ginger, grape, hemp, huckleberry, calves cross, lavender, licorice, mandrake, mint, myrrh, nettle, nightshade, pineapple, pomegranate, raspberry, rhubarb, saffron, sage, sarsaparilla, sassafras, sloe, star anise, strawberry, sugarcane, tea, tobacco, vanilla, and witchgrass.
And then with a lot of incense that you can burn on your altar or around the house, you can do is cedar, cinnamon, eucalyptus, ginger, lavender, lime, mint, myrrh, orange, sagebrush, or even sandalwood. Mugwort, sage, or patchouli.
Crystals that you can use. We have amethyst, which we actually have an amethyst cluster right here. We have beryl, bloodstone, which there's our little bloodstone right there. Cat's eye, coal, coral, carnelian, danburite, fossil, jasper, jet, marble, mother of pearl, obsidian, onyx, petrified wood, quartz,
Which I've got my quartz chunk.
rhodonite, smoky quartz,
Which I've got here.
salt, which we didn't bring over, we have in the kitchen, and pink tourmaline. Alright, so now we get to the fun stuff. Your Samhain ritual on the night of Samhain. On Samhain, honoring the dead is a big thing. So you have your dumb supper like we talked about earlier. Really try to make that a part of your ritual if it appeals to you, or find some other way to honor those who have passed on. We have carving jack-o'-lanterns. You can do that leading up to Samhain, or you can do it on the night of Samhain as part of your ritual. Making masks representing the gods and goddesses of Samhain. We talked a little bit earlier about the goddesses associated with it. So you can make a mask representing Kali or Lilith or Caradwin, or if you're a male or female who so chooses, make a mask representing one of the gods associated with it. You also can make a besom. We discussed that in my Maybon video. The besom being the witch's broomstick, you can make it and use it to sweep out the negative energy from the previous year, especially if you didn't do it at Maybon or at any other point during this year. Definitely do it on this night. One important thing that you can do on the night of Samhain is before or during your ritual, set aside some milk and honey for the fairies. This being the night that they're most mischievous, it's really a good idea to give them a little offering so they won't meddle with your ritual and your celebrations. Another really cool thing that a lot of people either do or want to do is every year in Salem they have the Witches' Ball. It lasts for a week. It usually starts a week before Samhain, and the festivities go on every day. They'll have classes, and there will be bonfires in Salem. They have a dumb supper a few days before Samhain, and then on the night of Samhain they have this huge ball with a ritual. I've never been, but I really want to go.
That
If
sounds
that's,
really cool.
yeah, it's, I'll have a link to their website, and every year they do a different theme for masquerading. I think this year their theme is tarot, so you show up dressed as the image on your favorite tarot card in your favorite deck. And if
Okay.
you don't own a tarot card, they actually have, or a tarot deck, they actually have a link to where you can look at like examples of different tarot cards and pick one, and they actually have a contest for the best costume, and you can win a prize. So it's just really cool to go to Salem where the witch trials happen and all that, and celebrate Samhain with people from all around the country and even from other countries who are all celebrating the same thing. You remember in my Maybon video I talked about really paying attention to that connection between yourself and other pagans and witches on nights of power like this, when we're all feeling the same energy and celebrating basically the same thing. So. Alright, so spell work on Samhain. Being a night of such great power, it's going to be a great time to cast spells and perform magic. Good types of spells to cast: releasing any bad habits, banishing, fairy magic, divination like we've talked about, candle magic, astral projection, which if you've never performed astral projection before, someone would be a really good night to try it for the first time, because there's so much power in the air that it'll help you along, give you that little extra push. If you've tried but never succeeded, maybe try doing it on the night of Samhain.
That's where I had my first astral projection. Happened on Samhain.
Really?
Mm-hmm. It did.
See?
A couple of years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's so much power in that night that it's a good time to attempt that for the first time and give you that little push across the line into the astral plane. So, past life work. With so many spirits roaming free, it's a really good time to connect with your past lives. Dark moon spells, mirror spells, reflecting, casting protection, warding off curses, basically mirror reflecting back any energies that are being sent towards you. Inner work, clearing obstacles, clearing your aura, inspiration, workings of transition, transformation, creative visualization, and contacting those who've departed this plane. So we've talked about how inviting in spirits is different than summoning. And while the main point is to invite in spirits, you still can perform those seances, use your Ouija board, summon and attempt to make contact with perhaps a deceased loved one that you would like to ask some questions and get some answers. My advice is don't just go around trying to contact random spirits.
It doesn't end well.
No.
Especially if you're doing it by yourself. Do not ever touch an Ouija board by yourself.
With seances, inviting spirits that you don't know and performing them by yourself are two very good ways for something very bad to happen. People always, especially those who are against witchcraft, will talk about, oh, you'll get demon possessed. You don't get possessed by anything unless you do stupid stuff like that. Being straight up. If you're going to go around inviting spirits in that you don't know, that's what opens you up to it. You can't be possessed unless you're opening the door and playing with forces that you don't understand. If you are going to perform a seance, identify the spirit you're talking to. If it will not identify itself, end it. If it will not give you a name and the name, or gives you a name and the name is unfamiliar to you, don't continue the conversation. If you're working with a medium, be sure to look for signs that the mediumship is turning into possession. If your medium can't control their actions anymore, Blow out your candle, end it. Turn the lights on, get out of the room. Be very cautious. Groups of 3 or more if you are not well practiced. If you have a lot of experience performing seances, you can get away with 2 people as long as you both have experience. If you are inexperienced, groups of 3 or more. That way you'll have one person who can run and flip the lights on and one person who can blow out the candle, while if one of you has become a medium for spirit, that one can come out of, like, get the spirit out of them, that kind of thing. So 3 or more is always best if you don't know for 100% sure that you know what you're doing. Divination, break out your tarot cards. With all the energy in the air and spirits and all of that, divination is strongest on Samhain. Break out your tarot cards. You never know what you're going to find. Break out your crystal ball if you have one. Like we've talked about, do candle magic and candle divination. Gaze into a bonfire and see what you see. This is really a good night to exercise those kinds of tools to gain some answers you may not have had before. Now, before we end, anything you'd like to add?
No, I think we've pretty much covered everything.
Alright. Well, this has been Gothica Eterna with Saial Water Spirit. Maybe we'll make a video later when we make soul cakes or apple cider or something.
That'll be fun.
So, blessed be everyone.
Blessed be.
So when we call upon our kin, we call upon our sacred ancestors to come in.
By the flame that burneth bright, O Holy One, we call thy name.